everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Mid-Major Rundown podcast. I'm your host, Gavin Butler, and this week we will be talking about the mid-major landscape as well as this past weekend, a look ahead to next weekend, and I will be joined by my guest, Lorenzo Camilleri of the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Lorenzo is a freshman first baseman. We'll be talking ball in just a few minutes here. As you could tell by the beginning of the show, we've got some new intro music. I was at the Siena versus St. Peter's game this past Sunday. Go check out our post-game interview with Gio Conte if you haven't already. Some more major happenings from this weekend. Two huge sweeps, one from San Diego State as they swept Nevada, extended their win streak to 11 in a row. They're on a real roll out in the Mountain West Conference. UTSA swept Wichita State. That's another huge sweep for a team that's, not on the bubble, but somewhat close to the bubble. Just big wins to pick up there. Certainly better than, losing that series. And also Ohio State sweeping the ranked Nebraska Huskers on their own turf. That is a huge sweep for them. Just a huge accomplishment. Nebraska, a little bit of a slip up for them. Can't really afford any more series losses the rest of the way here. And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce New Jersey Institute of Technology first baseman Lorenzo Camilleri. Everyone, Lorenzo, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to come on the pod. All right. So I want to ask you first about your guys' win against Bryant yesterday. So saw your teammate Ty Sally launch one opposite field, middle of the game to take the lead for you guys, and then you guys ran away with it from there. Do you feel like yesterday's win could serve as somewhat of a turning point for your guys' season as you go into the stretch run?
Yes, I definitely think so. Especially we have an off weekend from conference coming up. We have to play Boston College, which is really exciting. I know a bunch of the guys are excited to go up there, but just getting a little break too, and then going into UMBC, we're gonna have to win some games to make the tournament. But we're definitely looking forward to it. I think that we still have a shot.
Yeah, for sure. Big stretch run coming up for sure. All right, and you currently lead your team in home runs and slugging percentage, and you are tied for second in the America East with 5 home runs in conference play. What goes into your approach that allows you to stay consistent and keep hitting for power when you're at the plate?
For me, it kind of just comes down to simplifying it. Just try to keep it as simple as possible, staying on certain pitches, and just mostly just when I swing at strikes, it's definitely a better outcome, and I don't get myself out.
For sure, for sure. And then just to continue on that, it's been a very solid freshman season for you. Other than just like overall game speed, what's the biggest thing that you felt like you've had to adjust to in Division I baseball, either on or off the field?
I would say it's more off the field stuff, just especially with school, and I think at NJIT it's a little bit of a harder curriculum. Just being able to get your work in on time. I know just being on the bus, being in the hotel room, you're with your best friends all the time, and you just want to hang out, talk, play games, stuff like that. But just trying to lock in for an hour, 2 hours, and just getting work done.
Yeah, I can definitely see that the balance for sure. And then I want to highlight, you're a local player being from Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey, not very far from Newark. How did this factor into your decision to play at New Jersey Institute of Technology? And does it mean a little extra, being so close, having friends and family being able to go to your games more often?
Yeah, it definitely does. I'm like just about 25 minutes away from home, and my family is able to come to every home game just about, and definitely does mean a little bit more with New Jersey across the chest just being from here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Always a great thing to support your hometown. And are there any professional players or just athletes in general that you feel like you model your game or just your mentality after?
I would say not so much that I think about it, but I would say that my coaches and my teammates they compare me to Kyle Schwarber a lot, kind of just like
Okay.
similar game, kind of just hit,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just like the size and stuff like that. So a lot of people say Kyle Schwarber.
Hey, that's a good comp, man. He's a dog. So yeah, and I also wanted to highlight your guys' recent game against FDU. That was a for those who don't know out there, it was a wild extra inning midweek game that ended up getting rain delayed in the 15th inning, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so the 15th inning. Just tell us about that experience because that's not something that happens all the
Yeah.
time. How does that affect your prep, rest, and recovery for the rest of the week?
Definitely recovery stuff on Thursday. Moving into because we played on Wednesday instead of Tuesday. Usually a lot of midweek games are Tuesday, but just Thursday they kind of gave us a little more free range to do what we need. Like you need to recover, you need to hit like more of what you need to do just to be ready to play for the weekend. But the game was crazy, honestly. We wanted to keep playing after 15. Both sides were like, come on, after the umpires called it, but it was crazy, especially just being down early. Then we went up, coming back, the rain. But honestly, it was all of us just like honestly had a great time just cheering for each other and just getting after it.
Yeah, I can definitely see that
Yeah.
just being an awesome experience, like from start to finish. All right, so I'm gonna move into some more like easygoing, light questions to wrap things up as I usually do. So, you being in New Jersey and so close, I feel like I gotta ask these questions. You a Mets or Yankees guy?
I'm a Yankees guy.
Okay.
Mets suck.
Oh man.
But
Dude,
yeah.
I'm a Mets fan and I can't even
Uh
like disagree with you right now because like if you've watched them recently,
yeah, no,
brutal.
lifelong Yankees fan, my entire family. If I said anything else, my family would be upset with me.
All right, and then on that note, Jets or Giants?
Giants. I'm not a huge football guy myself, but same thing. My family like huge Giants fans. Like my uncle, season ticket guy, like loves the game. So it's always fun watching with them, whether they're just happy that they're going good or even upset. It's just like they're so into it. It makes it fun.
All right, yeah, we can agree on that one. I'm a
Yeah,
Giants guy too. I love their current team with, Dart and Scatabo. They're
yeah.
fun. But and then who's got the better slice, New Jersey or New York?
I think overall, you anywhere in Jersey you can get a good slice. In New York, it's sometimes tough. But I think
Okay,
overall, like you go anywhere in Jersey, you get a good slice.
there you go. All right, and then one more question to wrap things up. If you could play one game at any stadium or venue in the world, where would it be?
Ooh. I mean, going back to what you just said, probably Yankee Stadium. Just going there, growing up, it would be awesome. Just how many games I've watched there, and how many players I've looked up to in the past have played there. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would turn down the opportunity to play at Yankee Stadium. So I think that does it for the time that we've got today. Thank you so much for joining the pod, Lorenzo, and best of luck rest of the season to you.
Thanks for having me. That was great.
Thank you. Bye. And there is our interview with Lorenzo Camilleri, everybody. So, like I've said before, I want to start each podcast off with a quick intro and bring a guest from around the game on. This week it was Lorenzo. Week one, we had AJ Swader of Bellarmine. So, if you haven't listened to that episode, go check that out as well. Every listen, every like, every share, every subscribe means so, so much. As I've said before, thank you all for continuing to support this, continuing to listen in and keep up on our content. So with that, I'm going to move on into some more recaps from last weekend. So as I said before, San Diego State, UTSA, huge sweeps. Ohio State, another big sweep. Another big sweep. This one over in the SEC is Alabama taking down Vanderbilt in 3 games. That was an incredible walk-off on Friday by Johnny Lem, the Aussie for the Crimson Tide. Vanderbilt not looking good for them. I had them on my bubble in the Field of 64 projections from last week. This is a terrible time to pick up a series sweep loss, especially against Alabama, a team that Vanderbilt could have picked up some big quad one wins there. Some more series that caught my eye. Clemson taking 2 out of 3 against the Boston College Eagles. That's a big series win for Clemson there. UCLA sweeping Michigan State. There was a real threat for Michigan State to take down the number one UCLA Bruins on Sunday as Michigan State took a 10-2 lead, but UCLA would fight back to win that one 13-11. Another series in the SEC is Texas winning the series against Mississippi State at home, taking 2 out of 3 there. Great job by the Longhorns. Arkansas winning 2 out of 3 against Ole Miss. That's a big one there. And of course, this is the mid-major rundown, so I'm going to highlight some mid-majors. Over the America East, we saw Maine taking down Binghamton 2 out of 3 games at Binghamton's home field. That is an incredible series win for the Black Bears. Was highlighting that one all weekend long. I want to go over to the CUSA. Talked about some of those series last weekend. We had Dallas Baptist coming away with a big series win over La Tech. We had Jack State laying down the law in the final two games of their series at Missouri State, scoring 21 runs combined on Saturday and Sunday. Liberty was actually trailing both Saturday and Sunday against New Mexico State, but came away with the sweep over there. In the American Conference, the biggest shock to me was Memphis taking down the ECU Pirates with the series win, stunning them on both Saturday and Sunday. In the A-Sun, we had North Florida taking a big series win against Jacksonville, run ruling on Sunday to win that game 10-0 in 7 innings and take the series victory. We also saw Bellarmine with a wild comeback against North Alabama on Sunday to win their second straight game, take that series as well. They were down 6-5 heading to the ninth inning. Friend of the pod, AJ Swader, congratulations to them. And I'm going to transition over to the SoCon, where we saw Mercer pick up a 10-game winning streak of their own, but just come up short against Sanford on Sunday, losing 5-0. Still won the series, big series win, big momentum for them recently. They've been winning a lot of games after getting off to a tough start in SoCon play. We also saw West Carolina taking the series win against Wofford. They won the rubber match 7-5 on Sunday. And also, I want to talk about Gonzaga. They had a rough week a little bit. Talked about them a lot on the pod last week. Was really touting them, that streak that they had, that run that they were on. It ended up being a difficult week for them as they lost to Oregon in the midweek and then dropped 2 of 3 against Santa Clara on the weekend, looking to bounce back. They definitely still could win the WCC. I would have to look into this more. They might be my pick to win that conference. I do like St. Mary's pitching staff, though. It's a solid team over there. Over in the MAAC, we saw Niagara take a series win in a crazy weekend series against Rider. Niagara smoked Rider in game one. Their bats came alive. Rider responded, winning 26-2 in game two of the series before Niagara walked it off to break a scoreless tie in the 10th inning, taking that win down 1-0. Also, I mentioned earlier I was at the Siena game over the weekend. They, as you know, are in the MAAC. Huge series that they have next weekend against Iona, a real pivotal matchup that has a lot of seeding implications. The Saints basically need to win out here. Big series for them. And also in the America East, as we talked about with NJIT, they'll be scoreboard watching another big series for playoff implications will be Maine versus UMass Lowell. The Highlanders are hoping for some Lowell losses. They currently sit a couple games behind them, but if Lowell can lose a few games here, then NJIT will be able to decide their own fate the last weekend of the season when they take on. Sorry, one moment here as I go and check that America East schedule. Last weekend of the season, NJIT has UMBC and Lowell has Binghamton. So yeah, those two teams will certainly be scoreboard watching each other out there. And with that, I would like to reopen some discussions back into the field of 64 projections, particularly the bubble that I wrote up last week. But before we do that, a quick word from our sponsor. And that's it because we don't have any sponsors yet. So I will use this time instead to shout out the show. If you want to sponsor us, if you know anyone who might want to sponsor and get their brand name out there, I'm looking for it. I'm very open, just pitch yourself to me. DM me on Instagram, X, anything, and we can set something up. Also, if you feel like you have an eye for content creation and love college baseball, hit me up, send me your portfolio. I'm very open to adding new faces around here at the mid-major rundown. We are still in the growth phase, so I'm trying to do everything I can to propel that growth, as you guys know. And we will move back into the field of 64. So as I said when I wrote this up for the site this past weekend, I had a feeling that these projections might get shredded after just one weekend of play, and yeah, some of them did. So let's talk about it. The first team I want to talk about is Texas State. They had a rough weekend. I had them on my bubble. I almost didn't have them on my bubble. I initially, was deciding between them and UAB, and then I looked into both teams' recent performance, and I decided that UAB got the edge. So Texas State was in my bubble. Yeah, they got swept by South Alabama at home. That is not good for their bubble chances. Rest of the way, they have a home midweek against Baylor. They visit Arkansas State for a 3-game set. They visit UTSA, which, as we know, that's going to be a tough road matchup that you can't exactly count on a win there. And at home against Marshall to end the season. So basically, the way I'm looking at it is they need to win both midweeks in both series. You can maybe drop one in the Arc State series and still get out of there and be okay. Marshall, you really need to take those games. UTSA, that's going to be a tough one. We just saw them dismantle Wichita State. Wichita is a very solid program. Yeah, it's a uphill battle for Texas State after this past weekend. You really wanted to take at least one there for sure. Another team that was on my bubble who, maybe is not in as dire straits as Texas State right now are the NC State Wolfpack. They were also on my bubble, but then they proved themselves this weekend. Had a great series win against Miami. And in addition to that, in their midweek, they took down the ECU Pirates. So again, we talked about ECU earlier, not a great week for them. Taking that loss to NC State and following it up by losing the series against Memphis. Not great for them. They look to get back on track here. Another team I want to talk about are the Pitt Panthers. They've been a frequent topic on this pod this past week. They were swept by Florida State after losing their midweek 13-5 at home against Kent State. Kent's a great mid-major. I really think that they are liable to win the MAC. But again, not ideal for a Pitt team that was coming off a huge week the week prior. They seem to be such a variance team. I really don't know what's going to happen next. They take on Mercyhurst, then hit the road to take on North Carolina midweek against Penn State, and then a huge midweek series against Notre Dame to close out the season. Um, I really don't know what to expect. I feel like they could win the series against UNC and win every other game, or they could flame out and not even be close to the bubble by the time that we're entering conference tournaments. I really don't know what to expect with those Panthers. Another team that was on my bubble to round it out, we had the Michigan Wolverines. They had a very solid weekend, sweeping the University of Maryland. They did. That's great for their bubble chances. D1 baseball, if you go look over on their website, they had Michigan out of last week's bubble. I had them in mine. That had to put Michigan over Vanderbilt. I just don't think Vanderbilt has done enough this season, especially after I mean, this was before the events of this past weekend, but I didn't have much faith in Vandy to take down Bama. I think Bama's just a much better team. I think they're timely hitting, more pitching depth, and that really showed this past weekend. It took some clutch hitting, but also it just seemed like the Alabama pitching staff was so much more comfortable with Vanderbilt all weekend. Like Alabama was working counts better than Vanderbilt was, just staying in at bats, finding consistent contact, whereas Vanderbilt was just a lot of swings and misses all weekend long. Um, so Vanderbilt, I did have in my first four out. I'm not sure if they would be in there anymore. I'll have to look into that a little further. I haven't redone the whole field of 64 yet, so I don't really know. One team that I do think did well for themselves this weekend, that was in my first four out, that I'm strongly considering moving back into the field is Kentucky. Even though they lost to Vanderbilt, that's tough because they lost to Vanderbilt earlier this season. So it really just mucks things up down there. Part of me wishes this was a little easier of an exercise. If, Kentucky had just taken some more wins across the season, I would have them comfortably in my field. I think I would still slide them in there. I would have to take either Texas State or Pitt out at this point, like after the weeks that they just had. I just cannot justify them being in my field. I really don't know who that is. That is so tough. Another team that's close to the bubble that I would maybe move down there is TCU. They just got swept by Oklahoma State. That was a crazy series, by the way. Oklahoma State taking that walk off on Friday, 7-6 win. Colin Ritchie is a freaking dog in the box. Oh my gosh. He had three home runs on Friday, including the walk-off blast. He had another home run on Sunday. That makes 26 on the season for him. That is a guy who can hit. Some more teams that were right outside my bubble that it's not going to be an easy route in, so to speak, after this weekend are Arkansas State, who lost a series against ODU. Not the time to do that. They really needed to sweep that series or at least win two out of three. Not the time to take that series loss if you're looking to, play your way into an at-large bid. We have Kansas State, who I had a lot of confidence in throughout the season. I thought that they were a pretty good team. They got swept by West Virginia, who I owe an apology to, I will say. Last week, I was, I took a hit on West Virginia. I didn't think that they had the week to deserve being kept in the rankings, but I don't know if they heard me or something, but they killed it this past weekend. They swept Kansas State. They did what they needed to do, and yeah, I can confidently say that I would justify them being ranked, maybe even hosting a regional. That one's a little tougher for me to get behind. I would have to, again, do a deeper dive into what they've done all season and try to project their series the rest of the way. I don't know if they could host because you take them and you put them against a team like Alabama. Like that's such a tough question. So very nuanced. Definitely something that I want to monitor. And those bubble teams, those hosting questions. That's what we live for as we get into these past few weekends. And with that, I want to talk about some of the midweek games that we have today. The first one that I want to talk about is one of our bubble teams that I was just speaking about, and that is Michigan. They will be hosting the Xavier Musketeers at 3 o'clock. That is a big game for their bubble watch. If they can, take a game there, then that does a lot for their chances. Xavier, middle of the pack Big East team. Michigan really could improve their RPI a little bit. That's really just one you don't want to drop there at all. Another team and another game that we've talked about already is Texas State hosting Baylor. That is a massive midweek for them to get back on track after a few losses, one that they really need to pick up for their bubble chances. We have Vanderbilt, who I've said has struggled, and I have them outside my bubble, but this is a big start to, try and regain some ground that they may have lost in past weeks. They host Louisville at an 8 o'clock first pitch. That'll be a great game because Louisville has a guy in their lineup named Tage Davis who does a lot of damage to baseballs. He is one of the best hitters in the country. So, watching him take on a historic programs such as Vanderbilt in a big midweek matchup such as that, definitely one that I recommend you all get your eyes on if you can. You see the ranked teams having a lot of midweeks against solid mid-majors. We have a feeling that those might get canceled. As you know, this is RPI season. Those ranked teams don't want to take a loss there. A couple that, if they don't get canceled, that I would like to watch are number 6, Auburn hitting the road for UAB. Again, I said UAB was just above my bubble as of last week. That's a huge in-state matchup there for both teams as the season hits its stretch run. We also have Florida hosting the UNF, North Florida Ospreys, who picked up some big wins. We talked about them a little while ago. I could see that one getting canceled, but if it's not, I'd love to watch it, and I hope you all do as well. I'd say the marquee matchup today is we've got number 8 Coastal Carolina hosting one of their in-state rivals, Clemson from the ACC. This one is slated for 6 o'clock. This is, two of the better baseball teams in South Carolina going to battle. Coastal has had a lot of games where they've trailed this season and then came back late to secure the victory, one being this past weekend against Georgia Southern, as on Friday they were down most of the game and then came back to win by 1 run. So big win for them there. We'll see who can, take the advantage in that matchup. And one more that I want to highlight today is we have UC San Diego matching up against San Diego State. A little crosstown rivalry matchup there, set for 9 o'clock Eastern in the Mountain West as San Diego looks to continue their winning streak. This would be number 12 if they are able to get it done, and they are rolling at the right time. They're a team that I could really see doing some damage in the Mountain West tournament. And with that, I'll move on to the weekend matchups and talk about some of those before we get on out of here. So we've got the Pittsburgh and UNC series that I was talking about just a little while ago. That's one that, I really don't know how it's going to go. I lean, towards the nationally ranked powerhouse down south who's going to be at home. I think they'll take 2 out of 3. If you want to back them. Not a bad idea. We've also got Kentucky, who's on the bubble, taking on number 21 ranked Florida Gators. That is an interesting matchup because it's a prospective bubble team, a team that really needs to do everything they can to win and stay in the field against a team who's looking to do all they can to win games and get a host spot. Florida, Gainesville Regional would go pretty crazy down there. They're definitely looking to take at least 2 out of 3, if not sweep, of course, against Kentucky. A huge Big Ten series. We've got the West Virginia Mountaineers taking out number 7 ranked Kansas. This is an amazing series. The two best teams in the Big Ten, in my opinion. Just huge implications for how the rest of that season is going to go. Definitely one that you should keep your eyes on. We've got the Oklahoma Sooners taking on Arkansas in another ranked match. We've got Oklahoma at 24th on today's poll and Arkansas coming in at 17th. And the two top ranked teams out of any teams matching up this weekend, we've got number 6 Auburn heading to Starkville to take on Mississippi State in what should be a fantastic weekend series over there. I want to take a minute to talk about Oregon State. They'll be playing Long Beach State over the weekend. They just suffered a huge loss as they found out that star pitcher Dax Whitney will be out for the season with Tommy John. That just sucks to hear. Major blow for Oregon State, and we really hope that Dax can bounce back heading into his professional career. Talking about some mid-majors, looking at the American Conference, ECU looks to get back on track. Definitely doesn't want to slip into the bubble or out of the field. As they host the Rice Owls. That's the matchup of the week for me over in the American. In the Big South, we've got High Point taking on Winthrop. High Point is looking to bounce back after losing their most recent series against the Longwood Lancers. Over in the Big West, we've got UC Santa Barbara, the Gauchos, going to take on the Matadors of CSUN. That's a great series over there. And CUSA, that's one that I've been talking about a lot recently. We talked about last weekend's DBU and La Tech matchup quite a bit on the pod. La Tech again coming back into the limelight as they travel to Liberty in a pivotal CUSA series. Both of those teams are, Liberty's a little higher. I know that they're mid-30s RPI right now. La Tech hovering a little above the 100 spot. And both of these teams could really use some wins here this weekend, especially Liberty, to keep their at-large case relevant and rolling. Just major, major series with a lot of conference implications. Another one that's got conference implications is Siena hosting Iona. That's one that we spoke about earlier. Siena basically needs to win out there to stay alive. They're catching up to Iona, who's a couple spots ahead of them in the MAAC standings. Over in the Sun Belt, we've got South Alabama coming off that huge sweep over Texas State. They travel to Troy, who is looking to improve their Sun Belt seeding. That should be a very good contest against two solid mid-major squads down in the Sun Belt. And Gonzaga, they will look to get back on track as they host San Francisco, looking to obtain a series win, potentially a sweep there as they regain their footing ahead of WCC play. Two more matchups I want to highlight because I will be there. We've got the Yale-Dartmouth series doubleheader on the campus of Yale to kick that one off this upcoming Saturday. I'll have boots on ground. I'll be giving you guys coverage just as I have the past few games, the Siena and the UAlbany games. We also have an America East matchup. I'll be traveling overnight. Well, I'll be staying overnight, traveling in the morning. Definitely don't want to just drive overnight and then wait around for this game. But anyway, we've got Bryant hosting UMBC, the Retrievers. So boots on ground coverage from all three of those games between Saturday and Sunday. Keep your eyes peeled. I'll be delivering updates from the sidelines or the press box. That is to be determined. And that about wraps it up for the rundown this week. Thank you all so, so much for sticking around, for listening, for continuing to support the show. I'm always open to feedback. Please let me know what you think, what you'd want to see going forward. And just as I had some intro music to bring us in today, here's some outro music as we go. Thank you all. Have a wonderful week. And this is the second episode of the Mid Major Rundown podcast. Goodbye, everybody.